Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our boardroom. This is so exciting to have all of us up on the dais where we belong. Roll call, Rosie.
Trustee Yelsey.
Here.
Trustee Bartow.
Here.
Trustee Matoye.
Here.
Trustee Anderson.
Here.
Trustee Crane.
Here.
Trustee Ursoilu.
Here.
Trustee Wigand. Here. Mr. Lee-Sung.
Here.
Adoption of the agenda, and I would like to I would like to recommend in the adoption of the agenda that we pull item 14B5 for further study.
I'll second.
No, you make the motion.
Oh, I'd like to make a motion that we pull item 14B5 for further study. Second.
Any other comments? Okay. Roll call. Pardon?
We have one more amendment to the agenda.
Okay.
Trustee President, we have one more amendment to the agenda. Staff is recommending that we pull item 4F from the agenda in closed session.
4F, okay.
Okay, I move the agenda, do we have, yeah, I move the agenda be approved as amended.
I'll second.
Carol, do you have a comment?
Yeah, but I don't know if it's before I vote or after I vote, right now?
No.
Okay, I'd like to have the opportunity to discuss why we're tabling it so that the public can understand our mindset when we vote on this. And you know, because then I would feel more comfortable tabling it or not.
Okay, well, I'm recommending we remove it.
Oh, 14, that's
not necessarily to
14B5.
vote on- Not to vote on it. I think we need some more information. It has language that we had not seen before, and I think it creates issues in our community, and we need to do a little bit more research and decide the direction we want to go. And we
Okay.
also have Assistant Superintendent Torres, who has joined us just this week, who is going to be taking over this entire area of our Human Relations Task Force, and I think we need to talk to her and how we want to proceed with that.
Yeah, that's good, but I still would like a discussion to hear from all board members what they think about. So
Well,
can we just,
if
can
you
we
wanna
just?
say, I mean, you can.
Yeah, so
discuss
that's my
now.
only comment. No, I would love to hear what everyone else thinks about it as far as us tabling it versus discussing it within the agenda.
Well,
Like, or
Okay,
pulling
so
it,
there's a
pulling it out.
motion right now to pull it.
Right.
but now we're
So-
in discussion.
I would like a
We can
discussion.
have discussion.
Yeah, yeah.
So does anybody have?
I will be happy to comment. Personally, I would feel a little more comfortable seeing what the curriculum says, and I just want to make sure that what our district tenets of compassion, empathy, kindness, and respect are at the forefront of the curriculum. And once I've seen that, then I'm happy to vote on it. But there's more curriculum in there that I wasn't aware of, so that's where I stand on it.
And my thoughts are we set it up for a specific purpose, going along with human relations. We had a discussion about human relations, and we didn't really talk about that specific component of it. I want to make sure that we're not spending extra money that we don't need to, number one, because we've already committed to doing things a different way than we had previously. And then two, I want to make sure that the purpose stays intact. And some of the trainings that I don't want to decide on something without fully knowing what I'm deciding on. And if what we put in place, I think, was great, and I think it had its purpose. And if it's still fully that, then that's great.
Okay.
But I want to make sure it's actually that.
Yes, I do want to hear your thoughts. So that helps. Anyone else?
Well, and for me, I thought it was that it was a continuation. So there were some staff who had done it and some who had not. So for me, it's more about the balance. I would rather have all of our staff go through something rather than half.
And for me, I think it's just, let's look at what the training was used for in the last 2 years and see what we actually need now and if it is effective with our teachers and students, and really, go through the curriculum in today's environment and see, what Harbor and CDM really need.
So to be clear, this is for specific teachers, ones that are new to the training, which is 101, and then a follow-up for the 201, those who took it last year, and to student leadership, right? Not students in the classroom,
Right,
per
this
se.
is not students.
Right.
Oh,
it's-
it's student
it's-
leadership.
Right, but not.
But that's
a curriculum
students.
for
Correct.
It's not a
teaching.
curriculum in the classroom, it's for student leaders who've been chosen to be representatives.
Yes.
Okay.
All right. I just want to clarify before you all take a vote on this. The motion that's been first and seconded is just to determine whether this item will remain on tonight's agenda or not. Okay? This is not about the actual merits or your position on the item. It's just whether it
Okay.
will remain on the agenda or not. Okay? That's what this vote is. And then certainly with direction from the board, we will agendize at a future board meeting.
And just one other little comment on this. I did have a conversation with Peter Levy, the director of the ADL today, and talked to him about what their training was
Yeah.
for the past 2 years and what they intend for it. And I told him regardless of what we decide tonight, that we will meet with him and figure out our next steps. So this is
I like
not-
that. Yep. That's great.
Anybody else?
Thank you for listening.
So just to clarify, so are we going to discuss it? Did you want to move it to discussion action, or are we moving it?
I just
We're
wanted to hear why,
removing it from
I just
consent?
wanted to hear, and I wanted the public to hear why we're considering tabling it or pulling it out tonight, so that, I just wanted to understand the rationale behind it, and it makes sense to me, so thank you.
The motion is to pull the item, which
Right.
means we will not discuss it tonight.
Right. Okay.
Call for the question?
Okay. Rosie, roll call.
Trustee Yelsey,
Yes.
Trustee Barto,
Yes.
Trustee Matoye,
Yes.
Trustee Anderson,
No.
Trustee Crane,
Yes.
Trustee Ursulou,
No.
Trustee Wigand,
Yes.
Okay, community input on closed session items. We don't have anyone in our room. So we will now move to closed session. The items are 4A, conference with legal counsel, one case. 4B, conference with legal counsel, one case. 4C, threat to public services or facilities. 4D, conference with labor negotiator. 4E, public employee discipline, dismissal, release, employment. And we will go into closed session at 3:09. Thank you. We will return at 6 PM for our regular meeting, open meeting. For everybody's information, we're going to YouTube Live, so I have to give a 10-second pause while they load that up. But while we're doing that, I just want to welcome everybody to our board meeting. We are all really excited to be here well, we've been here in person, but we have you, our audience, in person, so we are really excited about that, and to all be sitting up in the dais without masks because we've all been vaccinated, so it's a good night. Before we begin, I would just like to read a statement that we will enforce and try to recognize for all of our meetings now that we are back. When the Board of Education is in session, all persons present must preserve safety and order. No persons shall engage in conduct that disrupts, disturbs, or otherwise impedes the orderly conduct of the board meeting. Members of the public should sit in the seats provided unless addressing the board or entering or leaving the boardroom, should not block the aisles with personal belongings, and should mute cellular telephones or pagers. Any person who disrupts the meeting shall be called to order by the board president. If such conduct continues, the board president may request the person to leave the boardroom until they can conduct themselves in a non-disruptive manner. Any board member may move to require the board president to enforce the rules, and the affirmative vote of a majority of the board shall require him or her to do so. So we will begin our opening ceremonies with a moment of reflection and pledge to the flag, led by Trustee Matoye, since it's her birthday. Oh, thank you.
Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before we adopt the minutes, just so everybody knows, we now adopt our agenda before closed session. We found out that legally that's the way we should be doing it. So in our adoption of the agenda, we did pull item 14B5 off the agenda, so that will not be on here. We also pulled yes, we also pulled one item that we discussed, that would have been discussed in closed session, 4F. So next is adoption of the minutes from 6/22/21 and 7/8/21.
So moved?
Second.
Moved by trustee Crane, seconded by trustee Weigand. Roll call vote.
Trustee Yelsey?
Yes.
Trustee Barto?
Yes.
Trustee Matoye?
Yes.
Trustee Anderson?
Yes.
Trustee Crane?
Yes.
Trustee Ursulou?
Yes.
Trustee Weigand?
Yes.
Okay, we now, usually at this time, we have Harbor Council and our federation speak, and I know our Newport-Mesa Federation of Teachers is not here for the summer, but CSEA is with us. So Pam Saunders, would you like to speak?
My glasses just broke, so
Oh,
it's okay. Good evening, President Yelsey, Board, Superintendent Lee-Sung, Cabinet, and guests. Thank you for this opportunity from CSEA. First and foremost, we'd like to thank all of our classified employees throughout the district for their 15 months of hard work and dedication during the pandemic, at times prioritizing the district over their families. CSEA has been an integral part in getting us where we are today and must continue to help to lead the way to educational normalcy. Our members have done a great job, and we never said no since the beginning of the pandemic. We are the ones that have always been there to support students and district needs, no matter the circumstances. As the district plans to reopen, we will continue to follow the rules as outlined by Newport-Mesa USD, with all agencies taken into account. CSEA wants to ensure that classified members' needs and concerns will be addressed, especially with the changes regarding masks, social distancing, and vaccinations as per Newport-Mesa guidelines, and following all the rules from all the agencies. Looking forward to changes for classified staff in the near future with ample notification. Again, thank you for this opportunity. CSEA Chapter 18. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And nice to see you here in person as well. Next, we have community input on non-agendized items. Trustee Matoye?
this is an opportunity for the public to address the board regarding items not on the regular meeting agenda. Comments on non-agenda items, are limited to 3 minutes per comment, up to 20 minutes per topic. A speaker may not relinquish his or her time to another person.
Okay, we have one item on CSEA interest. Pam Saunders?
Thank you again. CSEA would like to take this opportunity to address the board directly regarding current negotiations. We want to acknowledge and express our appreciation to the district's negotiation team for their collaboration and time. Newport-Mesa CSEA members have supported the district throughout the multiple stages of COVID-19 pandemic and have been committed to completing their roles through their ever-changing work environment. Our members endured unimaginable loss and worked under highly stressful circumstances, and we continued to prioritize our students' well-being and district priorities. The current negotiating parameters do not meet our members' essential needs or respect our efforts and commitment. There have been repeated disinterest in issues that greatly affect CSEA members. Thank you for your time, and we look forward to progressing in our next negotiation session. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We have 7 comments on one topic, and if everybody keeps that to 3 minutes, we can get them all in. So we will start with Haley Jenkins.
Hi, my name is Haley, and I'm a Costa Mesa resident and parent of 2 young children. So thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. To begin, I have to share a quick story. This morning, while taking my daughter to swim lessons at Corona Del Mar High School, we drove past the side of the school, which had a giant mural painted on it. And the mural had pictures of students doing different activities and reasons they were proud of their school. And one quote in large letters said, "CDM is special because of the resources that are provided by parents and the community. They are proud of what we provide to them." So I wonder how proud they're going to feel when they're led through the trainings by the Anti-Defamation League, telling them that they're biased towards people of a certain race or religion, but they don't even know it. It's unconscious. How proud will the teachers pulling into school each day feel when they go through these same trainings, 24 of them, and are told that they need to check their privilege, or that they're an oppressor, or that they themselves are oppressed? Is this even true? Absolutely not. But you're all here to approve $38,500 to the ADL to teach this stuff to staff and students. So you must all feel proud of it, right? Let me ask you all a question. Have each of you had a chance to read through all of the materials in these trainings? Have the parents? Do you all know exactly what they're training these children and the staff? Let me share with you. On your own agenda on the school board website, it boasts that the ADL is a global leader in exposing extremism and delivering anti-bias education. So are we seeing extremely violent hate crimes occur on campus, or is this the result of a very small group of people on your task force? I believe the average number was 30, pushing critical race theory in our schools. Now, I've spoken to a few district members recently, and one told me, oh, it's just teaching about the Holocaust and tolerance. And another board member told me to not listen to the buzzwords that the companies attach to their trainings. Words like equity, anti-bias, privilege, intersectionality. And I was assured that CRT is not in our schools, but here it comes. So you're telling me it's not here, but your actions speak differently. When you paid $45,000 to True Equity last month, you have high schoolers attending a diversity, inclusion, and racial healing program, and now you're rehiring the ADL, whose goal literally states to provide students the skills to be role models and social activists. So are you telling us all loud and clear that your focus is not on improving the children's education? Is that like something that you're proud of? I wouldn't be. So you all want to deal with bullying, and I get that, and there are hundreds of companies out there to teach kindness and acceptance and love for everyone. So why are you choosing this company? In conclusion, I'm asking you, do not approve this payment and trainings from the ADL. In the very least, at least delay your decision a month or more until parents, as well as all of you, have thoroughly read through all the materials. Because we need to live up to that mural on the wall at CDM to be proud that we're providing students and staff with resources for a great education, not training them in activism. Thank you.
Next we have, excuse me, if we want to get through 20 minutes, we should give everybody the time to speak. Next, we have Kathy Johnson, and I just wanted to reiterate, I already announced that we have pulled this item from our agenda, so it will not be discussed, it will not be voted on, just so you know. That's Kathy Johnson.
Hello, I'm Kathy Johnson. I'm the grandparent of children in your school system. To quote the first African-American Lieutenant Governor, Mark Robinson, on his fight against critical race theory, CTR, growing up poor, my family saw many struggles. My mother had a 5th grade education. When my father passed away, I was 12. But my mother took on the task of raising us, and she did it quite well. She knew that she lived in the greatest nation on earth. All opportunities were open to her and her children, and she told us so. I'm now living my dream. He ended with, that's why ending indoctrination in schools is such a passion of mine. We have got to ensure that there are things like CTR are not creeping in and causing our children to hate this nation. You can inspire your students. You can convince them that they are victims, or you can overwhelm to an overwhelming system that they have no opportunity to overcome. For the others, assume that they are guilty of oppression. Victim or oppressor, you do them a disservice if you put them into predefined groups. I have spent 20 years working in school districts and with educators, providing resources and services that hopefully inspire them to prepare each student to find their life direction, can build their skills so they can follow the path of their career potential. I am confused. Please help me explain how the following quote from the California Department of Education's Instructor Manual, A Pathway to Equitable Math Instruction, Dismantling Racism in Mathematic Instructions, makes any sense. Quote, this is a list of characteristics of white supremacy culture that show up in our organizations. Culture is powerful precisely because it is so present and at the same time very difficult to name and identify. Despite the difficulty to name or identify white supremacy culture, the authors were able to come up with 15 characteristics that, according to them, are embodied in white people. Quote, the characteristics listed are damaging because they are used as norms and standards without being proactively named or chosen by the group. They are damaging because they promote white supremacy thinking. They are damaging to both people of color and to white people. It goes on to say, organizations that are people color-led or majority people of color can also demonstrate damaging characteristics of white supremacy culture. If both races can demonstrate white supremacy culture, how can an instructor manual assign the behavior only to whites? I request that you keep the parents fully informed as to what is being taught in the content of the curriculum.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm having difficulty with reading this one. Sean Bideau. Did I pronounce that right?
No, that's okay.
Okay.
Welcome to my role. Sorry, missing handwriting. All right, thank you for letting me speak today. I understand it's not on the agenda today. I just want to make it clear, so in case it is on the agenda on a day I'm not here, I just want to be able to share my opinion. I came here because I'm a parent of a Newport-Mesa student, and I oppose any funding for any anti-bias education programs, including the program called A World of Difference. I do not renew the contract with the Anti-Defamation League or secure any contract with any other organization providing training as it relates to race. The Anti-Defamation League says that their goal is a world in which no group or individual suffers from bias, discrimination, or hate, but the contract you are considering is going to explore privilege and perspective, and this is all a code for critical race theory. This training will create and promote racism and divisiveness in our schools. It's not about equality and equal opportunity for all. It will be used to divide our children into groups of either perpetrators or victims, and they are sentenced to this position for their entire lives, no matter what, not taking into consideration their individual actions or their individual character. It is all based on their skin color, one group to be elevated over another, and the tribalization of our races. This goes against everything that was fought for by the civil rights movement with Martin Luther King. These types of programs will undo the years of building of equality of the races. By promoting these concepts, you will be causing the development of discrimination, harassment, and racism that you claim that you want to eliminate. These types of programs destroy relationships between students, families, and friends. I'm now starting to hear about kids being uninvited to parties because they're white. These programs have a negative impact on the mental health of all students. The supposed perpetrator, as well, according to the theory, and the lifelong victims should be this should all be categorized as child abuse. To characterize them as this. This is offensive not only to the white students, but to all students. I ask that you look at what could be the unintended consequences of a scenario like this that you are looking to create by signing on with companies like this. Or maybe it is your intention to divide our children by skin color and promote hate and racism in this generation, but I hope that's not the case. Please do not enter into any race,
equity, privilege, and power-based programming contract with the Anti-Defamation League or any other organization. It should be up to the parents to teach the children about these concepts and not the school. Thank you.
Henry Abraham. Henry Abraham. Oh.
Good evening. Thank you so much for letting me speak today. I am a resident of Costa Mesa. I have 2 kids. One of them is too young to be in school, but one of them goes to Woodland. We love Costa Mesa. It breaks my heart that I'm pulling my kid out of public school. As an immigrant who moved here at the age of 14, it was public school that granted me the privilege of getting a full ride scholarship to college. I will not send my kids to a school that my half-white, half-Persian child has to be taught about either he's a victim because of his ethnicity or he is privileged because of half of his ethnicity. It doesn't work like that. As someone who comes from a different race, who wasn't born and raised here, trust me, there are plenty organizations. The teachers are amazing at making sure that everything is taught top-notch to our kids. It's a shame that there are hundreds of us pulling our kids. We are giving up our jobs to stay home and homeschool our children because of one subject that you guys, who we voted for to represent us, get to vote on. Please listen to the parents. It's a huge concern in the community. If any of you are a member on social media, you know how the parents feel about it. So please, from someone who knows both sides of the aisles, I would love for my kids to go to public school. I worked since I was 15 years old. I paid taxes for our public school. But I will not be able to send my kids to a school where they are not going to be taught properly, and they're going to be taught about a privilege that they don't have. Let me make it simple. As a minority and an immigrant, I had the privilege of going to school on a full scholarship. Yes, I had the grades, but I also was able to check the box that made me eligible for a scholarship. My husband, who graduated high school at the age of 16 with honors, had to work 3 jobs to put himself through school because he was white. There is no white privilege. We need to stop talking about it. This country is a great country, and we are privileged and honored to live in this country that provides us to be free. I come from a country where freedom is not an option. So please consider what you're going to be teaching these young kids. We need to be proud to be part of this country. Thank you so much.
Michelle Gambian.
Hi, thank you for listening to us this afternoon. It's going to be really hard to follow that wonderful woman because her expression was, I think, what most of us feel here today. I also have children in Newport-Mesa Unified School District, and I didn't prepare anything, but I wanted to go on the record to say that I'm not supportive of any kind of teaching or any kind of programs that would promote critical race theory in our schools. I don't think it's appropriate. I don't think that the underlying policies that critical race theory teaches or supports or promotes are accurate. I don't believe that they are appropriate to our community or our children, and I would object to any funding going to any kind of program that is anything like critical race theory. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Lisa Westerhout. Lisa Westerhout.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak. So first off, I just want to say that I'm here as a student advocate. I have 4 students that went through the Newport-Mesa School District. They have all graduated. I'm also a school counselor. I'm not a school counselor at the Newport-Mesa School District. However, because I live in the area, I felt that I wanted to come and speak. My hat is off to all of you. This is a challenging time for you all to be in your seats, and I have no background on where any of you stand on this position. And it's been a tough year. And I wanted to come in and perhaps give you a different lens to see this through. I've been very fortunate in that I've spent my school counseling career doing what school counselors are trained to do, which is counsel students. I don't waste my time doing scheduling. I don't do anything like that. I've had the opportunity to really build programs and work with students, research-based programs. As you can see, this is like close to my heart here. Okay, so that being said, I would strongly recommend, I do know many counselors in the Newport-Mesa School District, and there are some amazing counselors that are more than capable of doing needs assessments for their schools and getting an understanding for what their schools need and actually implementing programs to help their schools. We have master's degrees in counseling. It's not your old school counselor, that just, sent you off to college. They have a lot more training and skills. And I would recommend, I know you guys earlier met with some attorneys. I have no idea what it was for. I was just reading the agenda. But you met with attorneys because you needed somebody to look over something that needed that expertise, is what I'm assuming, right? So I'm sure you have very smart, educated friends, but you wouldn't take that same issue to someone who has a PhD who's also very smart, but doesn't really know the issue. I encourage you to take things like this before you make any sort of decision and run them by some of the school counselors. Include them in the conversations because they are trained to recognize this. It took me 2 seconds of being on this website to know, I cannot tell you why the world is upside down right now, but what I can tell you is this is wrong. This program is wrong. It goes against everything you learn in counseling. I mean, I knew the parents would come with great arguments here, but I wanted to be the voice of a professional counselor because I don't feel like we've really been asked our opinion or expertise on this matter. If this comes across your desk, it will come across your desk again in many different forms, I'm sure, over the next few years. I just encourage you to, one, on this particular issue, if you vote to not, I know it's off the board for voting, 11 seconds left. If you decide not to go with it, whatever that means, no harm done. If you decide to go with it, there's harm that's going to be done to the students.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Angela?
Hi, Ms. Matoye. I feel kind of goofy. Okay, so I am a mother of Newport-Mesa children, and I am here today to object to the rebranding of critical race theory, or as it is now called, restorative justice or restorative programming. As the grandchild of Cuban immigrants, one of the lessons I was taught is that socialism's first order of business is to divide the people. They are fractioned into groups on oppressed class, as an oppressed class and a victim class, and this tactic creates a desired division needed for control. This evolves into a perpetual socialist symbiotic relationship. Similarly, this strategy can be used in schools as a seemingly well-meaning and well-worded curriculum. Disguised in the syllabus, students are taught that they are victims of their skin color or socioeconomics, or that they are oppressed by those who seem to be in a position of privilege. This is racist. Also camouflaged within the lesson, another group of students is taught that they are the oppressors, guilty by the color of their skin or for their socioeconomics, and that they are to blame for the oppression of their classmates. This is divisive and also racist. I believe one of the most profound statements made by a true advocate for racial equality is that man should not be judged by the color of his skin, but the content of his character. Please take this into consideration before making the decision to renew the next tier of the Newport-Mesa Unified School District contract with the Anti-Defamation League. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. That's all. Okay, that's all of our comment cards. We will move on to item 11, Superintendent Comments. Mr. Lee-Sun.
All right, good evening, everybody. Good evening, trustees. First of all, I want to comment how great it is to be here in person. It's been a long haul, and it's great to see our community and folks in the room. We've been in person for a while, but it's nice to see the energy in the room. I also am happy that we're not wearing masks in front of or between plexiglass. So a lot of great things. And, one by one thing at a time, we're getting back to normalcy here. And one of the things that I want to talk about is something that has been on all of our minds is what is the guidance going to look like for the state in our schools, okay? And so we had a couple of big announcements with the CDC coming out with their updated guidance related to schools, okay? And our state, California Department of Public Health, was waiting for the CDC to come out with their guidance. And I want to highlight a few things for our trustees tonight and for members of our public if they haven't been following along with that. And there's some things that are actually quite positive, things that we've been looking forward to. There's some things that maybe didn't go as far as we were hoping it to. So I'm going to kind of summarize a few of, I think, the key things. Now, in the area of positive changes, one of the things that we committed to here in the district was that we were going to have full in-person instruction in the fall. We announced that months ago. And one way or another, we were going to make sure that that happened. And with the release of the CDC guidance, with the release of the state guidance, that confirms that. And that was a big theme, a big area that they wanted to make sure that schools, all schools here in the state of California, could open with full in-person instruction. And so that validates the decision, the direction that we made months ago. The other thing that is very welcome is that there are no distancing requirements. And this, from a school perspective and an operational perspective, as you know, we have some principals here in the room, that is the biggest challenge in everything that we do if we have to keep kids apart, whether they're in the classroom, at lunchtime, recess, coming in and out of the campus. So the great news is that there's no distancing requirements either inside or outside. So that is very welcome. And that goes for students as well as staff, because we weren't sure. Okay, we were hearing, okay, maybe students, but what about staff? And our staff, our teachers, they want to move around the room. They want to interact and connect with the students. And that's really important. So with the lifting of those restrictions, they're able to really, what we believe is get back to the normalcy, build those connections and those relationships in a much more normal setting. The other thing that is welcome is, again, they validated that there will be no mask requirements for outdoors. So our kids, when they're out there on the playground, or the high school kids moving from class to class, there's no mask requirement there. And I know one of the big concerns is the amount of time that our kids have had to wear a mask at one time. So this at least gives them that opportunity to take that mask off outdoors. Now here's an area where it didn't go as far as I think we were hoping and expecting, is that masks here in the state of California are still required indoors. And it's required indoors regardless of vaccination status. And as we know, our students that are below 12 years of age aren't even eligible for the vaccine. We know that many families and parents have chosen to have their students take the vaccine, but some have not. And we need to understand that. So there is going to be a mix of vaccinated and unvaccinated. But here in California, the mask rule applies to everybody, elementary, secondary, as well as whether they're vaccinated or not. So that's the area that I think, we've been getting some comments, getting some feedback that there's a lot of concern for that. And I know the state just put this out yesterday. It's something that we are going to very closely analyze here in the district. Like I said, this just came out the other day. What we typically do is we meet at the county level with all the Orange County superintendents. We get feedback from our county Office of Education, feedback from legal analysis of this new guidance. And once we get to a good point, we definitely will be putting a communication out to all of our staff and to our parents on an update with that. But at this point, that is the guidance that is issued by the California Department of Public Health, and the mask requirement indoor is a requirement. is a requirement. There is one aspect of this that they have given to local school boards, and that is the enforcement part, okay? And that's something we have to look at very closely to determine what flexibility do we actually have with that. And that's a part that right now is really challenging and a bit unclear. So we're going to take some time to analyze that. We don't start school until August 23rd, so we've got a bit of a time, okay? So please bear with staff, bear with me. We will analyze this and we will report back to you on exactly what that is. So there's some good things in there, and I'm sorry, I've missed one thing, looking at my notes. There is one area that is an advantage of having masks. One of the challenges that, again, we had to live through is when somebody is COVID positive, that anybody within proximity of that person has to be quarantined. In other words, has to go home, cannot come to school. And one of the advantages of wearing masks, according to the state and this guidance, is that there will be modified quarantine protocols. So it will be a better set of rules to allow kids to stay in school in the event one of their classmates is tested positive. Okay, so that's another benefit I wanted to mention today. So bottom line is that we will continue to analyze this, and we will come back to you with more information. Okay. I also want to mention we have somebody in the audience that I want to acknowledge later on in the agenda, and I'm not sure if she's going to be here, so I'm going to point this out right now. But we are very privileged to have the superintendent of our Coastline ROP program, Carol Hume. Carol, would you please say hello? And okay. And I want to make sure I point out this because there is something on the agenda later on in consent. And Carol, I'm not sure if you're going to stick around for that. I hope you do. But I wanted to make sure we acknowledge your presence here, and more importantly, our partnership that we have with CROP. There's so many wonderful courses that changes the life of our kids. It gives them a direction and a career path, and it's very exciting that you're a great partner with our district. And we have our agreement, our annual agreement. It's a wonderful agreement, and we certainly enjoy our partnership moving on for many years. So, Carol, thank you for being here and all your support. Okay, and I will say some words at the end because this may be my last board meeting. Okay, and the reason why, and the reason why, the reason why I say maybe this is the last regular board meeting, but I have a feeling we might have a special board meeting before the end of the month. So I'm not saying farewell completely, but I will have some words at the end of the meeting on that.
You penciled it in. It's not in ink yet. Okay.
Thank you very much. Okay, community input on agendized items. We do not have any cards.
Okay.
So we will move on to item 13. We have two reports. The first is to receive an update from Leadership Associates on our superintendent search. And I will call Dennis Smith and Peggy. And the reason we have asked them to come here is because we are in the midst of finding a new superintendent, and we just wanted, even though we have it on our website and we keep updates of what the process is and where we are, we thought it would be nice for them to give their update of where they are in this process and our next steps. So welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, President Yelsey and Superintendent Lee Sung, and board members. We're really pleased to be here. Peggy Lynch is here, and we're working directly with you and the community, and we also have Kent Beckler and Sandy Thorstensen, who are part of the team. And so we just first want to say how privileged we feel to have been part of this process. This began with the Board of Education. We met well over a month ago when we chatted with you about what was important in the new superintendent. And based on that, you had talked about us making sure there's a very broad outreach. And so we conducted over 6 days, 27 separate groups involving over 200 individuals, principals, teachers, DLAC members, superintendent, cabinet, confidentials, just every imaginable group, city officials also. And based on that, we came up with some findings about what we thought the community was really focusing in on in terms of key characteristics. And we want to share that with you today. So I'm going to let Peggy talk a little bit about that. But we also conducted an online survey, and over 1,750 members of the community, students responded to that, both in Spanish and in English. And so it was a tremendous response. And so based upon all that, we put together a position description that we'll share with you some of those key characteristics. And we also want to thank Rosie, who was absolutely remarkable in scheduling all of that. It was huge, and she's been tremendous throughout this entire process. So I'm going to turn it over to Peggy, and then I'm going to also wrap up with some things.
Great, thank you very much. I think, and I know the board has seen from the survey some of the characteristics that professional experiences that people were interested in, including experience in California public education, classroom teachers, site administrators, a proven track record of student achievement, those kinds of things, as well as the professional leadership characteristics around building your community, bringing the community together, has a vision for where you're headed, accessibility, communications, all those kinds of things. I want to spend a little bit of time, though, just for everybody's perspective, to really focus in on the position description part of it, because I think that really is the piece that we use, as board knows, as our real recruiting tool in talking with candidates. These are the things we say, are you a good match for all these kinds of things? And that's really something we use a lot with our candidates. I think Dennis may say this, but we've had 29 requests for applications already, and we don't close until the 26th. And of those 26, we've had well over, I think, 11 or 12 who actually completed them already. We have a number of out-of-state candidates, people requesting as well out of state. Everybody said, well, wouldn't Newport-Mesa be a nice place to go? But they don't know everything yet. So, but I think the things that I want to just kind of highlight under the professional profile that we heard, one is to understand and value the culture of this district. Understanding this whole culture of what this is like. Consistent and focused communication, really the consistency, the staying on message, and the focused communication. Involving people in decision-making and other groups and the people that are impacted by that. Comparable community experience. They've worked in something similar to this. They understand the demographics of this community. The collaboration, experience in developing the capacity of staff, working to build their abilities as well. Those are some of the key things. Under personal profile, really around strong communication skills, effective listening, problem solving, a collaborative, transparent leader. They hold themselves and other people accountable. They're articulate in their communication, innovative, and willing to really look at where we can go, and knowing that the district is highly successful and done lots of wonderful things, but you can always grow. You can always get better, and I think we heard a lot of that. So I think from our perspective, those were sort of the consistent messages we heard, both on the survey but in our interviews and communication with staff. So we had a lot of fun. I enjoyed my stuff. I don't love Zoom, but you get through it, and we were all good.
It's a really passionate community, and teaching staff, and just everyone involved just loves this school district. I wanted just to wrap up by sharing with you what we gleaned as some of the greatest strengths and the greatest challenges as we talked to these 200 individuals, the 1,750 responses. There's some themes that came up. But the strengths of the district, clearly the dedicated teachers and staff members. I mean, people really valued and felt that their kids were in good hands with the professional staff that you have here in the district, and that came over and over again. People commented how passionate they are about being part of this school district. And so there's a real love for being a member of this community. People talked about they went to school here. We heard it from some of the parents here. I went to school here. We heard that a lot. So people feel like very invested, like this is important. Getting a superintendent that really is responsive to us and understands this culture. So that came in over and over and over again. The commitment to safe schools, this came up, that really want to make sure that our schools are safe, and that we have a leader and we have a board that really takes that into consideration, as they felt that is the case. The other part was that there's so much engagement, whether it's the city officials, the foundation, the PTOs, the booster clubs. Everyone is doing whatever they can do to help the schools and help the kids. And so those are some of the really strengths of the district as we heard them. The challenges which are interesting, and they're not new to you, but declining enrollment came up over and over again, and particularly, you know, which kids are going to show up in the fall, and how did the pandemic affect that? Did some people make choices to go to private schools? And so there was a worry there, but that came from the board as well as the community members, so that's nothing new to you, but that was a reality. The perception of inequities, that there can be differences in schools, whether it be socioeconomics and how much a school can raise. I've been part of this community for 30 years, next door in Laguna Beach and Irvine, so this isn't anything new, but it continues. And so the new leader has to be really sensitive to the fact that there are differences in terms of how schools are perceived, and the district does everything they possibly can, but there's a perception there. So that was a reality that came up, and regardless of who you were. It wasn't necessarily negative. It was, this is something we need to continue to talk about. And then finally, and Peggy mentioned it, just communication. This is a complex organization, but consistent communication from the district to the schools and across the board was something that they felt was highly valued and would be important to really focus attention on. So that wraps it up. We'll take questions if you have any. The deadline closes on July 26th. We're doing our vetting process. We've made many personal contacts to recruit individuals. We also get calls when someone says, I think I'm interested. We talk to them, and we go through this position description, and sometimes they'll select themselves out of the position, and that's a good thing. Say, I know at Newport Beach or Costa Mesa that may sound really glamorous, but this is the reality of it. And so some of the skills don't always match up, and so that's part of what we do. But we're feeling very good about the candidate pool and our recruitment efforts.
Dennis, could you provide the expected timeline after the application closes, where we're going from there?
Very good. So the 26th, and Peggy and I and Kent and Sandy are doing the vetting as we begin. But once that closes, we spend about 2 weeks of heavy vetting, contacting individuals, and doing reference checking. And then in the middle part of August, probably on the 12th or the 13th, the board will receive all the applications. And with our recommendations of who seems to be the best match, you'll be able to review all those in the privacy of your office or homes. And then we'll meet, and you'll make your decision in terms of who are the top candidates you'd like to interview. And then interviews are scheduled to take place on August 18th. Following that, the board will have identified, hopefully, a finalist, but that'll be pending several different and very important things. One will be a site visit, either by Zoom or in person, hopefully in person, to validate that, and also contract negotiations. If all goes well, your first board meeting in September, I don't have that off the top.
September 17th, I think, or 14th?
14th.
If all goes well, the board will take official action at that time. If there's, at any point in time, you say, well, we'd like to spend more time on this, we'll do that until we get the candidate that you like, although we think we're going to have a very, very good group of candidates to present to you and for you to meet with in the middle to latter part of August. Was there more to that?
No, that's great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any questions?
And you have an interim, so you'll be starting.
We do have an interim that will be beginning prior to Superintendent Lee Sung's retirement, so we'll have a little bit, I can't remember your name anymore. We'll have a little bit of overlap on that, so we're in good hands. And the interim really is to just bridge the gap. They will not be coming in to set any new policies, to make any changes. They will be just a bridge between Superintendent Lee Sung and the new superintendent when we come in. We have a fabulous staff that is moving forward and working on our programs for opening school into 21-22, and so we're in good shape.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good.
Thank you very much.
And I just would say that we have the chance to do searches all across the state and have done it for many years. And just for the community, this board has been the most engaged and active and interactive with us, and so open and free with your time, which this is a time-consuming process, and there's a lot for you to review. And so we really appreciate that. It makes our job in terms of what we do so much better, and we're more effective because of a board like you.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Trustee Crane.
Yes. Trustee Yelsey, you actually on this whole, out of this whole group, went through a superintendent search, right? Because we haven't, obviously. And so Was the process about the same, or how would you say it was different? Because the situation was a little different in the sense that we were in COVID, so a lot of Zoom-type interviews with the community, and I'm just curious if we're going to involve the community at all after this point.
Well, the huge part of the process was the Zoom meetings. We had individual meetings and the online surveys. And so that's generally the time which the community really has a chance to provide input, and they do that, and we present you with that executive summary. One of the things in a superintendent search like this, particularly with the quality of candidates we're bringing forward, it's a confidential process. So everything that we begin to share with you, those personnel files are just for the board to review. And so generally speaking, almost 100% of our searches are done in a confidential manner. The board's input is provided, or the community's input is provided through those other mechanisms. It's also possible, if you wish to take community members or maybe some of the labor groups on the site visit afterwards, that can sometimes be done. But this is the time which is really the board's responsibility.
And I think the difference I remember is back then we didn't have Zoom. Nobody had ever heard of Zoom. Hard to believe, huh? And so we had community input sessions in every zone.
Right.
But I have to say, doing it on Zoom probably is a better process because we got more people engaged. Some people who may not want to go out to a school at 6 o'clock at night to provide input, but yeah, they can hop on Zoom. So I think the engagement we had in getting some feedback was much greater having this on Zoom. And
The access to input was wider because of technology.
Yes.
It really, we are actually recommending that.
Yeah.
The Zoom, because we're having so many more people participate because they can do it on their own time. And I mean, the scheduling, Rosie, trust me, over 6 days, it was really quite the task. But we met with 27 different groups and some individually too. So no, the Zoom actually works better, and that's the protocol we're trying to follow moving forward because our participation is so much greater.
And you can get more individualized groups. Like we did so many just secondary principals, elementary principals, certificated staff, classified. And when we had our meetings before, everybody went to a location and gave input.
Yeah, and specifically because of our timeline, it happens to be in the summertime, just the way it's fallen. So this is a better way as far as reaching out to families who are maybe in a vacation location and can Zoom in or take a survey from wherever else.
And I participated in 2 superintendent searches as a teacher and as a site principal. And I can say that we had more people respond to this than we did to the other ones. So it was surprising and comforting, actually. It was nice.
And just for the public to know, because I've had some comments, when we hire many people in the district, we have community people and staff people on the interview panels. And for the superintendent search is the only search where it is just the board that selects a superintendent because he or she is our only employee. So we are the ones that make that decision. But that's why we would like the guidance from outside. We'd like to get the input of what everybody else is out there is thinking and what their concerns are.
So you were able to review a lot of those comments directly from the community, which is, I know, very helpful.
Thank you so much for coming tonight. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
And next we have a report on the district's site security projects. Mr. Holcomb.
Thank you, President Yelsey. Let me bring that up on our screen. Looking for the expanded to full size. I thought I had that here. This one. There we go. My apologies. I'm sorry. I should have asked my team to come up. you all please come up? Thank you. So as you all know, we've recently completed two major projects in the district's school site security program at Ensign Intermediate School and the Corona Del Mar Middle School and High School site. And this seemed to be a very good time to reflect and review the district's site security program. There have been numerous people involved in this program throughout, so I thought tonight that I would let them share it with you. One person who would have been here and sends his regards is Vlad Anderson. Vlad Anderson isn't with us tonight. Many of you probably know that he is a veteran, and he is over at the Orange County Board of Supervisors meeting tonight speaking on the Gypsum Canyon proposal for a veterans seminary. And so he sends his regards. He wishes he could be here. He would be talking about the portions of this, pardon me, of this presentation that he had worked on with me back in 2018. This is, by the way, very similar to the presentation from December of 2018 when we initially approved the Ensign and CDM projects. So you'll see many of those same slides, and you can be able to compare some of those to each other. With that, let me tell you who we have, and in order, Ada Zaresny will start out, give us a little bit of history, and then she'll go on and pass it on to our architect, Jason Donchie, who was with me touring all of our school sites back in 2018 to prepare the initial security study report with Vlad Anderson that formed all of this program, all of the district security standards. So Mr. Donchie is here tonight from Studio Plus Architects. He has his security consultant here who works across the country and has worked on our projects. Also Mr. Bidnick, Lance Bidnick from our Maintenance and Operations Department, and our new risk manager, Jonathan Wilby, is here with us this evening. So with that, Ada, could you talk us through the past projects?
Good evening, everyone. Nice to see you all. President Yelsey, Board, Russell, Superintendent Russell, and all of our guests. So my part's easy today. This is probably the least you'll ever hear me talk up here, but it's the history of it. And so what we're seeing here is a list of sites that we did some modifications to associated with securing our site. And so with the first group of schools, the intent for those schools was to create a perimeter. Not necessarily every single time was it on the property line, but there was a perimeter. The other important aspect of those projects was to create a lobby or an entry where once the gates were closed and the fencing was locked during the school day, that you were able to come onto campus into the lobby and not have to walk through the administration building, not walk down the hall past the principal, past the nurse, and really create an in and out opportunity. And so those 7 schools are the schools that we initially completed, and then we went through the comprehensive study on all of the schools, which just was another layer of security measures and minimizing the entry points. So as you know, we've just constructed the Ensign and CDM projects, and we're looking forward to the next group of them and seeing what new opportunities we have with those projects being different types of sites and configuration. And I'll pass it on to Jason.
Do you want us to save our questions to the end?
Do you want us to
save our questions to the end?
Oh, that's.
Would you please?
Sure.
If we could.
Okay.
We'll stay up here.
We'll be efficient.
Thank you.
And
Nice
they
to
will
see you.
stay up here.
I think this was this yours, Tim?
Well, this was actually Vlad Anderson's slide, and again, he apologizes. But Vlad walked us all through at the time the crime prevention triangle, and the fact that the 3 components of a criminal act are the desire to commit the act, the knowledge and ability, and the opportunity. And the next slide talks a little bit about desire, knowledge, and ability. But one of the key things we talked about back in December of 18 is that the district, as of that time, and has still even more so, committed funds to provide counseling and the structure for addressing the issue of desire, and desire particularly to do something at a particular site. We've brought in the Challenge Success program, which has been very, very successful. We've brought in psychologists and other student supports, and this district has really committed a significant amount of resources to that. The next part really is the part that's addressed by SEPTED, and at the time we did this, Mr. Anderson and Mr. Donchi and I all went through the SEPTED principles in the federal guidance on this, because they really are about addressing the ability to do it and the opportunity and how you can impact that through environmental design. So SEPTED is the Crime Prevention Through Environmental Design program. It addresses the issue of natural surveillance, the ability to see what's going on around you, access control, the ability to control who is actually able to enter, and territorial reinforcement, the ability to make it clear that this is not the same as the public space that you're immediately adjacent to. Now we're ready for Mr. Donchi.
Yeah, so since we do have real-world examples now with the CDM and Ensign projects completed, I wanted to take the opportunity to talk a little bit about the SEPTED strategies and some of the implementations that we made, which may not be so apparent as security measures. So the first strategy in SEPTED, natural surveillance, that means that around the perimeter of a site, people can see in and people on the site can see out. So the reason why this is important, it's because if somebody is there on campus or outside to commit a crime or nefarious act, we all know that if you feel like you're being watched or at least visible, it's a deterrent to doing that. So one strategy that we used, and as an architect, you know, even though this is, these are security projects, we look at opportunities to beautify campuses. So landscaping is a big way that we did that. As we work through plant materials and analyzing what to utilize, obviously we need to keep plant material low around the perimeter of campus. If they're trees, the canopy needs to be high so we don't obscure those sight lines. So there was a lot of coordination with our landscape architect and the district and Lance and M&O department. Access control obviously is a crucial part of SEPTED. Obviously there were big changes at CDM and Ensign. Right now, during school hours, to get on campus, you either need a credential, a card, they'll let you in the gates, or you enter through the admin building. So essentially during school hours, anybody on a campus is approved to be there, which is a good thing. Territorial reinforcement is another SEPTED strategy, so that's marking your territory as a K through 12 public school campus. Reason why that's important is because there's a different set of rules, right, on a public school. There's a code of conduct. It is not a public park. When we were developing the standards in 2018, something we heard a lot about from the school sites was people were on site utilizing play fields during school hours. So, you know, and you can't fault them. A lot of the school sites look like a park, which is a good thing, but you need to define the perimeter during school hours. Another thing we talked about a lot during standards development and implementation is the notion of passive and active solutions. So just to touch real quickly, a passive solution, as you can see here, this is the fence at Newport Harbor High School off, I think, 16th Street. So that's a passive solution. It doesn't need technology, doesn't need maintenance to be effective as a security barrier. So in a pure security sense, you would want to surround any site with fencing, no gates, right? But the school site needs to work and it needs to operate. Emergency access needs to be provided, so obviously we need to implement gates. That's a major part why we brought in Charles LeBlanc from IMEG Engineers. He's a security expert, ultra knowledgeable about access control and everything to do with security on campuses. So Charles is going to talk a little bit about a little bit more detail on access control and security.
Hello. As a physical security consultant and doing this for many years, my role in this was I was engaged to actually come in and help the district assemble and determine what was the most appropriate technology to deploy to help make the schools safer. And so for us, it's a very important element. We have to look at things from several factors, and one of the factors that we actually do use to begin with is CPTED. So these are principles that are founded and used everywhere, not just here. They're used in all different disciplines, all different environments. We use them when we do corporate campuses, when we do hospitals, when we do public universities, private schools. They're used everywhere. We then combine that with the concepts of integrated technology with operations. So we work very closely to make sure that we have these passive elements in place first, things like the fences and the elements that we need to do. Then we think about the operations, who's going to operate them, how they're going to operate them, how can we make these systems work efficiently and effectively, and very much cost effectively. And then finally, we look at the technology and how we put it in. So the first thing that we actually started doing soon after we started talking about what was going on from a technology perspective was what exactly is the district doing with their campuses. And so we started actually looking. The first thing we did was we looked at the plans for these two sites. And it was pretty apparent from the very beginning, all of those CPTED principles have been taken into place. There were a lot of different things in place that really made the technology support very, very well for the district. So we have a really good foundation with this type of approach that's being deployed. And it makes it very easy for us to go back and ultimately add and make the technology work better for you and actually make it a force enhancement. It actually helps you to enhance all of these principles you're trying to do at the sites and be very flexible with it. So one of the things we're looking at right now is access control. We're also looking at camera coverage and other elements in technology, but we want to blend them in so that they match up. And the first element we had to do was to actually look at the locking mechanisms and basic functional things. So the nice part about the designs, and by the way, we were not involved at that early stage. So we just came in and we started to look at these plans just recently. And so this was our opportunity to see what was going on. And we saw two things as we evaluated the plans. The first thing we saw was this adherence to very, very good CPTED principles. The second thing we saw was a very good plan and implementation. So the quality of the fencing, the way it's laid out, all of the different principles that are being used are really solid and really help us to enhance those with technology. So what we're doing now is actually helping the district to select a good, appropriate technology to deploy and to ultimately integrate that in with all of these nice things that are already being put into the campus so that we can help you secure the campuses and the students and staff and faculty and all of the people who work on these sites for you.
Thank you, Charles. Mr. Bidnick has worked very closely with Charles in developing the access control standards and the new key card system, which is new to us, but it was not new to Mr. Bidnick. He had experienced it in other projects, so you might talk about that.
Good evening.
My history with the Newport-Mesa Unified District goes back to 2019. So I came on board after all of the designs were already in progress and the December 11th, 2018 meeting. One of the things that I was looking at or asked to partake in or participate in was to look at the projects that were being undertaken by the district for improving security at the school sites. The one thing that I noticed very quickly is this is all very familiar. My history with the San Diego County Office of Education, my history with the the Anaheim Union High School District. We had just finished a very similar project. It had very similar CEPTED concepts involved for the security of the school sites, and very specifically with the electronic access control. So perimeter fencing around schools, even my daughter's school in nearby Ocean View School District, they just completed a lot of fencing projects very similar. The feel for this project was very familiar. Beginning with the most visible part of it is the perimeter fencing. Another concept, even back to my experience with San Diego schools, was advising schools with the moving towards a single point of entry. And something that's very difficult to achieve with a lot of Southern California schools that were built in the 1960s with the idea of open campuses, a community space that didn't really have a lot of barriers. The implementation of these fencing, the rerouting of the parking and some of the sidewalks, and some of the architectural features that were included in both of these projects to draw people towards where you wanted them to go, specifically to the front, excuse me, the front entrance of the schools. The additional parking and the drop-off areas kind of aided in that, directing visitors as they come on to campus to know exactly where to go. With this project, we had not identified the exact locking mechanisms or the electronic access controls, but all of the infrastructure was there, put in place, pending a finding or a determination on what type of technology would be used. We actually used all of the existing infrastructure, very successfully implemented new electronic access control technology at all of the entrances, including the office entrances at both CDM, Enclave, and high school offices and the Ensign office. We also have in plans for surveillance cameras to be installed. Our timing is probably less than perfect, with delays on camera delivery because of COVID, and then one of our employees unfortunately suffered a personal injury and was not available, but the cameras will be installed shortly, with the intent that these are going to aid us in forensic activities and investigations into the activities around the entrances of each of the schools. If we detect any kind of illicit activity or questionable activity, we can go back and forensically review camera footage. One thing that's really nice is the renderings from the project are very similar to the actual representation of, or the actual condition at the school site. Steve Morris from our facilities department recreated the renderings with actual photographs of similar angles at each of these schools. The smaller picture that you see there is the rendering, and the larger picture there is the actual footage. So very similar to what was presented to the board in December of 2018. You can see a lot of the concepts, and again, the large CEPTED feature of an actual physical barrier. Corona Del Mar had a lot of the same features. With a high school, it's a larger campus, a lot more activities, a lot more complicated to set standard programming for all of the activities that the high schools require. It's not just the School of APA programs, it's the school athletic programs, it's community use, it's weekend activities, it's very difficult, very complicated to program. Some of the things that we did was, not only did we create training materials for our own staff, our M&O staff, school site staff on how to use the system, what to do, what not to do, also administrative documents that would aid the principals in how to manage the system. We also updated some of our existing key policy and key control forms, created new access request forms and new procedures and processes to help implement the electronic access controls. Not only did we provide training and ongoing support for our maintenance and operations staff, new technology, we need to make sure that we can maintain it. But we also provided the training for the school sites. We're also actively working with the school sites as they become familiar with the system and the programming, and modifying the programming, the times that people can come and access the school site, who can access it and when. When you flash a badge, for example, at the card reader, and this is an example of one of the electronic ID badges, it will do certain things depending on who you are and what kind of credentials you have. We have the ability, for example, to lock down the school site with the push of a button in the office. We have the ability to unlock all of the gates if we choose to. For example, to allow student arrival and dismissal. So somebody's not standing at the gate, opening and closing the gate every time. And we've been working with the school sites to kind of figure out what works best with the schedule. And then also updating in the training materials with the school sites, working on the programming so it's consistent with their school site safety plans. And more pictures from Corona Del Mar.
Go ahead. All right. Good evening. So my part here is to talk about the next steps, but before I did that, I just wanted to give a little bit of risk management perspective on the security projects and also the principles that have been incorporated into the projects. And I think I have a little bit of a unique perspective just because I wasn't here when they were planned, I wasn't here when they were approved, I wasn't here for most of the time that the work was actually being done. You know, I've really come in and seen it towards the tail end of these two projects. And at the time that the planning and everything was going on, I was working for the Orange County Fire Authority as their risk manager. And one of the programs I was responsible for was site security at the Regional Fire Operations and Training Center. So the interesting thing about that is that the OCFA, we went through a similar project 3 to 5 years ago where we looked at hardening our facility, and it was similar to these sites, that it was a facility that was built enough time ago that it was built on different principles and also when the world was a little bit different. So it was an open campus, and we went through and had to figure out how do we harden our facility to provide more security and also protect our employees. And it was based on similar concepts to this. It was all based on SEPTED. We worked with IMAG and the same type of card readers and cameras and integration that we're talking about here. So I kind of have a little past life experience in that. Since being hired by Newport-Mesa, I've spent a lot of time just getting up to speed on school security and school safety. And one of the resources that I've used to do that is the federal commission that the president puts together after every act of school violence, like major act of school violence. And they put together a report after each of these reviews that they do to look at the incident and also look at ways that basically school security and school safety in general can be improved in the future. And reading through these reports, all of them have similar types of discussion about site security and physical security of schools. And it all talks about school building hardening, limiting entry points, and utilization of technologies such as access controls and cameras. So when I came in, I felt good when I started to learn about these projects as far as what we had done and also the principles that we had used to get there. So now what's next? So what's next is just as important as what we've done. Coming in and doing all the physical security, putting fencing in place, cameras in place, that's all great. But you know, our planning, our training, our drills, those are all really important as well because that's how we get people to act a certain way during an emergency. So the next step is a revision of the comprehensive school safety plans. So those plans are required for each of our schools. They're required by the Education Code. They come through the Board of Education every year for your approval, and they need a revision. Part of it is to go into more depth as far as incorporating the changes that we've made as far as site-specific changes and the security changes. We're also working with a group called I Love You Guys, and what they're all about is a common set of language and protocols to use during an emergency. And the reason you want those, and you want those across school sites, is so people start becoming familiar when they hear certain words and certain things, they know what to do. So we're working with them on incorporating that into our site-specific or our comprehensive school safety plans. Also, these plans are very comprehensive documents. They're over 100 pages long. And they meet the requirements of the Education Code, which is very specific on what you need to have in your plans. They're not the best documents to use when you have an emergency. So part of this revision is trying to streamline the plans as much as we can, but also putting together other resources for the school sites to use when they actually do have an emergency. So resources and tools for the classrooms so that they have a more condensed version that they can act on. Resources and tools for our incident command team so that when they manage the incident, they have good tools that they can use in managing that incident. And the comprehensive school safety plan itself isn't the best tool to do when you actually have an emergency. Training is another big piece, training our staff and students on those changes and on those plans so they know how to act and what to do during an emergency. And then also a big part is the drills. So we have scheduled drills every single year, fire drills, earthquake drills, disaster drills, and lockdown drills. They're on a specified schedule that is included in the comprehensive school safety plan and carrying those drills out. Now, one of the things I'm excited about is a couple months ago you approved a safety software, safety management system software. And part of that safety management system software has a inspection and audit module that we're going to use for our drills. So we'll be able to build basically our checklist for the drill into this software. We'll be able to use cell phones or tablets to go through and actually fill out the form right after the drill takes place. We'll be able to schedule the drills, so there'll be some oversight to make sure they're being done on the schedule. And also the findings that come out of that drill as far as things that went well and things that can be done better, we'll be able to build into that software as well. So now the corrective actions are tracked, they're assigned to people, there's a specific deadline as far as target deadline to carry those out, and there's some oversight as far as whether we're actually acting on the information that we get out of the drills. And one of the really nice things is data collection. That we'll be able to look across all our school sites and see what are the common things that come out of our drills that need to be improved on. Are there any trends in those? Do we need to build those into our comprehensive school safety plan updates in the future? And really try to build continuous improvement in our programs as well as our training and also our drills in the future.
Thank you, Jonathan. Thank you, team. That concludes our presentation. If you have any questions for us, or Superintendent Lee Sung, if you have any comments.
Why don't we
you'd like
open
to
it
make.
questions first and then open.
Okay.
Trustee Barton.
Yes, so that is a really great presentation. Thanks for the updates on next steps. Answered a lot of the questions that I had. A question I keep getting from the community regarding Ensign, is there additional work left to be completed, or are we done?
Additional work left to be completed. The cameras is a significant, or is one of the parts that still needs to be completed at Ensign. So that particular portion is there. There's also an area at the vocational building where there used to be a ramp. It was right next to the where the fence ends up. The way the water flows in that area wasn't working very well. So as we looked at that in construction, we said, you know what we really need to do is and there used to be a restroom building in front of that. I don't know if you remember that. So that made it not really easy to do surveying to figure out where the water, what was underneath the restroom building. So we basically took that entire scope out of the contractor's package and have been designing the completion of that particular portion of it. Other than that, Ada's my expert.
Sometimes when you're standing up here, you forget the little details, but there is additional work. So the other two scopes of work are we're working with the city in regards to improvements in the right-of-way area. So in some cases, you'll see where our fence line, everything on the interior, that work has been completed, but on the exterior, it appears there's about 2.5 feet of undeveloped area. And that's because it's the city right away. So we're working with the city on what that design looks like. We've had a couple of meetings with them and site walks at both of the, both CDM and Ensign. And so we'll continue to work through that with the school sites. Primarily, we're just trying to create a better area for circulation around, especially Ensign to widen sidewalks, so things like that. The other scope of work, which is probably, somebody has to remember this, is the student gathering area. And so that was the district's and the board's commitment to enhancing an on-site space with all of the trees that were displaced at Ensign. So we are doing that there. At CDM, I think really it's just the right-of-way area with the city.
Yeah, I think there's a small, I think at CDM, there's a small little area across from, on Mar Vista, across from
Oh,
yeah, this
great one. So that again is in the city right-of-way.
Yep.
And so what we're doing is we're asking the city to allow us to push our improvement onto the city property. And that was really to reinforce that requirement to be able to run around a building on campus. So that was the one pinch point. If we had put the fencing where on our property line, you wouldn't be able to get through adjacent to the 500 building. So we're asking the city to allow us to build our fence along the 500 building in their right-of-way to allow that circulation around the building. And it's only maybe, how many feet
20
do you think
feet.
it is? Well,
That's
the
more than
path
20.
itself isn't going to be too significant, but it's the length of the 500 building of that elevation that you see off of Mar Vista.
Mar Vista.
Yeah, it's not that extensive.
Do we have a timeline for either of those projects, or is it too preliminary?
We're working on it now. Like we said, we walk them with the city. We have to put a budget together, and then once we have that budget identified, you'll hear back from us.
Thank you. That's very helpful.
Trustee Metoyer.
Are they putting surveillance cameras up at CDM also?
Yes.
Well, that will be a standard for
Yes,
all our sites?
It is, but I should clarify with regard to surveillance cameras, and partly so that our audience on the video as well understands. By surveillance cameras, this particular project, the objective is to be able to see what happens at
After.
our entry points. It's not full campus surveillance everywhere throughout the campus. It's really cameras that are focused on the gates. So if a gate gets left open and I get the call, or actually it's usually Mr. Bidnick gets the call on the weekend, somebody is on campus, we don't know how, we can at least go back then and look on the video and see, did somebody forget to lock the gate? We can go and talk with them, remind them, please make sure you lock the gate when you leave, those kinds of things.
Thank you.
Trustee Weigand?
Yes, thanks for the presentation and clarification on our security measures in the district. I have a couple questions. So you're talking about cameras focused on gates, and is there a plan for when that will be done for all sites? And is there a site-specific?
So when the board chose to do Ensign and CDM as the first two initial projects in this next phase, there was an entire comprehensive listing of all sites for the district. And they were all listed in their order of when the district would likely be handling each one of those different sites. So as you see in the item written before you, we actually had proceeded with a design contract for the next 5 sites. And those were the ones that were determined to be the next priority in the list of projects. And then there was a schedule for the rest of those at that time.
Thank you. And then a couple other things. Recently we had some vandalism at some of our schools, and I wanted to know what we are doing. I keep hearing from the community, do we have sort of, motion detector lights, or do we have security systems that would have gone off when these vandals would have come into our schools? And I obviously know that we don't want to tell everyone what our security protocols are, but what are we doing to prevent those types of acts when it's non-students on campus?
So we do have some campuses that have some security systems. So there are places within the district where there are motion detection systems and intrusion detection systems. And those reports come to Mr. Bidnick as well in the middle of the night when they come. The key thing about this particular program, as we've studied the literature, is if they're not on the campus, then it's a whole lot less. So the first, it's about layers of security. So if you get a big chunk of the potential people not on the campus because you have 8-foot-high fences, you have limited entry points, they have cameras on them, those types of things, then all of those other things are still good, and they still are part of a program we would recommend going forward, but they typically are very expensive and are typically done as part of a major modernization or something like that because they are so intrusive in each one of the particular buildings at each campus.
And then just one word, I'm sure we're not going to talk about this today, but there is a concern with e-bikes and kids' safety coming in on e-bikes. So I don't want to drop that bomb here, but it is a concern, I think, with parents and non-parents alike that
and trustees
about student safety coming to and from campus. So
yeah, let me share a little bit on that topic. Thank you for bringing that up. So e-bikes is a real concern. It's not the typical bikes that we all grew up with. There have been recent discussions, I just want everybody to know, between myself and the police chief of Newport Beach, because Ensign in particular has a large number of our students riding electric bikes. So we committed, even before the end of the school year, to work in collaboration between our police department and our site administration to do a lot of bike safety, okay? So they did something before the end of the year, but as part of our normal routine, we do bike safety at all of our schools, and we'll make sure that we, I think, beef up the e-bike education part, not only for the students, but for their parents to know the risks involved in that and to make sure they're safe. There was a question about whether e-bikes were even allowable for anybody younger than 16 years old, and that depends on the type of e-bike that it is. So there isn't, just in case everyone's wondering, there isn't a blanket rule that says if you're younger than 16 that you can't ride an e-bike. It depends what type of e-bike it is. Okay, but I just want you to know we have had talks about that, particularly at Ensign. The interim principal was very much on top of it, and we will make sure that that continues.
Can we be updated occasionally on how your discussions are going, so we know where we stand?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, thank you.
And definitely be ready for that first week of school when there's usually a very large transitional period with all kinds of transportation, whether it's bikes, parents dropping off in their cars, and all that.
Trustee Anderson.
Thank you. I was wondering if there is a plan in place to put cameras at more of our schools. I know that's one of the things that I first was concerned about, and I was told that it would be cost prohibitive, but for me, it seems like that would be a great way for us to see, particularly because so many of our campuses have a wide amount of users. That's how they were designed, and so some of our schools aren't like CDM or Ensign, and they're close to fences, they're close to neighbors. There's not a way to have all four corners that are fenced in. So I keep discovering schools here or there that have cameras, but I'm just wondering if there's a plan to add more cameras.
That hasn't been part of the district security plan in the past as a comprehensive district plan. Certainly, there are some cameras in the district, but as I say, it's not part of a comprehensive plan for cameras. This was part of a comprehensive plan for cameras with regard to this particular keeping ideas of who's on site. Then comes the issue of blind areas. And once you start trying to cover all of the different areas where something that you want to observe could happen, the quantities of cameras go up by an exponential amount. In these cases, we're talking about handfuls to a dozen cameras. Once you start talking about cameras, even to address a particular building, you're typically talking 100 for a building. And now you're starting to talk about all of the rest of the campus. So it's definitely part of what school districts are doing across the country. A lot of it is with new construction because it is very expensive and part of new construction and modernization, the reconstruction. So that's often what's done. So if that's an interest of the board, we would certainly be interested in looking at that as to what the future objectives are for our district.
Yeah, I mean, for me, that's something that has continued to come up. I think there are members of the public that are not aware that we are continuing to have hate crime-related vandalism on our campuses. That's something that really concerns me. I would like to see personally some cameras that are in use. I think too, for me, safety is not just physical, it's also how you feel on our campuses. One of our big pushes is mental health and social emotional health. Having control the perimeter and very militarized language to me is concerning. I personally represent a lot of students who may have a different perspective or stress level when they see police officers or SRO officers or feel like their school is a military zone. So I'm just concerned that this keeping people out as the only method of security alarms me a little. I think when I've looked at some of the other school sites that have had incidences of violence, oftentimes it's internal. It's students who are on that campus, who know that campus well, who know how to prop open a gate. So I think I would like to see some alternatives for what happens in those situations. We haven't really heard about that. We've talked about this before. I'm not hearing any of those kind of, but what is the contingency plan? So I would love to hear more about that.
So I want to jump in here that, first of all, you're making a very important and valid point. And if the board who were here back when I took over the safety role, that was a very important piece to this. We did not want to create prison-like environments. And we started with being the welcoming environment. Even though, and it might sound kind of contradictory, but that was always a big piece. And a big part of our safety initiative was exactly what you're describing. That's why all the mental health support, all the proactive strategies, along with making sure we can control our perimeter to know who's on campus. If you recall the Raptor system, the visitor check-in system was something new around that time, which only works if people go into the entrance that we want them to go into. But Trustee Anderson, your point is very important, and I will tell you, every safety presentation that I did up here started with exactly that point. Okay, and so you're not going to hear it so much in their presentation. We can certainly bring that back in a future presentation, but I just want to validate what you're saying. We do not want to create prison-like environments. Okay.
If I could add, that was one of the reasons why even in 2018, that issue of desire, and you saw on the slide where we noted the investments that had already been made at that time. And I don't remember all the figures as well as Mr. Trader does, but even since 2018, this district, and with your leadership as a board, has committed even more significant resources toward desire, towards student social and emotional health and mental health services to provide a safe environment for students on campus.
Thank you. There's also something, so when I was looking kind of further into this, and one of the things that I actually heard from a Costa Mesa PD officer who he was actually a little concerned by what we might be training our students doing lockdowns. He said that the Costa Mesa police is actually trained to do run, hide, fight, and he said flee is often the safest option for students. I, again, would like to have more perspective and conversation on this. If the FBI is saying that, if our Costa Mesa PD is saying that, again, we've had some kind of closed discussions about this in the past, and I feel like we continue to hear one side of like, lock it down. And I would really like to hear more options. And my last point that I would like to make is I haven't heard, again, what our plans are for campuses that are connected to houses or are in neighborhoods. So if we are putting an 8-foot, a 12-foot fence around a school, but two sides of it border a person's house and they can just hop in, that doesn't make a lot of sense to me. So to me, cameras would make a lot more sense to be able to monitor. So I would really like to hear some solutions around that, please.
Yeah, let me respond to the training and the procedures that we follow in the event of some type of intruder situation, okay? And so we all learn run, hide, fight, or run, hide, act. There's actually many versions of that that have surfaced over the years. But we did a lot of work with our PD, and we got to the place where we were working really well together, and we brought on the concept of the I Love You guys and some of their protocols there. But then COVID hit, and that kind of got put on the back burner, if you will. Again, my conversation with the police chief is to recommit to get those trainings, those joint trainings together, so that, exactly what you're saying, we're all talking the same language, okay? But the concept of running, hiding, or in the worst case scenario where you have to actually act in a situation, it depends. And the trainings that I was involved with and the conversations I had directly with the PD, it's not you do one first and then the second one. It's not sequential. It depends on the circumstances. And that's something that we, have to get back to our training, or we do drills, but we're going to recommit and get our PD and all of us talking the same language, okay? Because running isn't the first option. Okay, it may be in that circumstance, but it isn't automatically, and we got to make sure that we train our folks the proper way. They're learning to assess the situation, determine what the best action is at that point. Okay, so anyways, but this is something. Again, going into next year, Jonathan Wilby has my files that I've handed over, and we've talked about that, and we do plan to get back to what we were making great progress in just before COVID hit.
Thank you.
Trustee McCoy.
I was going to comment that I got to participate in one of those trainings from start to finish, and it was for somebody that's been in school a long, long time and done a lot of drills, many drills. It was a very eye-opening drill, but the first thing that ever happened was the school's perimeters were shut. Then all those other things start happening, but it was that exactly, and it is eye-opening that because the school has to shut down, not shut off, but it has to take care of itself, because the police are not just standing there waiting. I was at an elementary school for the training, and the elementary teachers, staff, and administration were part of it, and it was wonderful. So I'm looking forward to that coming back into its cycles, and it is tough. The lockdown drills for elementary school kids are scary. They are scary, but from somebody who was a principal of an elementary school that was very close to Pacific Coast Highway and 3 banks, every time a bank got robbed, we had to shut down. So the kids, the thing that was wonderful is it became matter of fact. They didn't panic so much because they knew what to do during a lockdown. Teachers had a book. They ran in the corner. They read to the kids. They did all their things they were supposed to. But the more we drill, the less intense it gets, so that if there is a real crisis, at least the first actions are to be safe and then get scared when you realize, oh my gosh, this is real and it's here. But that's the big drill that's scary. Earthquake drills, we kind of, and
Trustee Matoye, you reminded me of something that I have not brought up, I think, in quite some time. When you said that running those types of drills are scary for our little kids, we brought on Hero. Do you remember that?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, we brought on Hero, and we started it at 2 of our elementary schools, actually very successfully. And it was moving along, and then unfortunately, guess what? COVID hit. Okay, and so that is actually an agreement that we do want to bring back and expand that to more schools, because for the elementary students and the parents of those elementary students, when they saw that, their question is, gosh, why don't we have this at all of our schools? And that was the direction we were going. It was a curriculum, and it empowers kids using these types of skills. And it's not scary, it's empowering. So we'd love to bring that back. I probably won't be here, but I will make sure that Mr. Wilby has all the information, because we're actually up for a renewal.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Let's also remember that our kids weren't on campus last year, so there's a whole year of loss of awareness and education and training for, so
Those skills too.
even more important this year than ever, really.
Any more questions?
Thank you.
Trustee Urso?
Yes, I just had a couple questions about the integration with the public information officer. So, for instance, these the safety plans, getting them sort of translated for the public and the community ease of use. Are those underway? Is it expected that there will be like easy to follow infographics for the staff so that they, that are come out of those 100-page plans? Sort of what does that look like?
That's actually,
Jonathan.
so with Mr. Wilby on board now, he's helping with that. Our education division, Mr. Lee Sung, when he was there, Mr. Drake, and their staff have worked directly with the school sites. And I know that this is an opportunity where everyone is looking at how we can continue to enhance this. And so Mr. Wilby has started to look at some of those types of things, but I believe they're already translated in the appropriate way. This is not my department.
Yeah, let me add a bit here. So I know you love infographics. In fact, we all love.
Or just something easy to look at.
And one of the things that drew us to the I Love You Guys Standard Response Protocol (SRRP) and the Standard Reunification Method is the very clear and simple graphics that they had. And when we shared this with principals, in fact, Dr. Shaka's back there and Dr. Bolton, we previewed this with the principals, and they're like, oh my gosh, this is really great because it's clear, it's simple, it's straightforward, and they have standard graphics that people don't even need to read it. They will know exactly what that means. But the Comprehensive Safe School Plan, like Mr. Wilby said, is not a plan that is user-friendly. If you're having an emergency, you're not pulling out that 110-page plan, right? You are pulling the graphics, the cheat sheets, the one pager, but more importantly, you already know it and how to do it instinctively. So to your point, we're working towards that. Mr. Wilby's been doing some great work to get to that point.
And then just to follow up on what Trustee Anderson had mentioned, because it is something, I love the idea of using environmental design to prevent crime. That's great. I also love the idea of environmental design to foster healthier communities and with a public health lens. And from that vein, fences have been seen as sort of a public enemy #1 kind of thing in the past decade, I would say. Many places are taking down their fences at schools in lieu of putting in technology and cameras and other ways to police an area that doesn't involve risking a kid trying to scale the fence to go play basketball and rip his leg open and then have a lawsuit at the school. So there's a lot of instances where these fences, although put there with the best of intentions, the negative public health consequences kind of override that. And with all of our attention to mental health, having opener, greener spaces that without walking into metal every few feet is something that, I would hope that we would at least start to consider that kind of literature, and there's a lot of it out there, more than willing to send it over. Because at places like Estancia, for instance, I have heard nothing from the community but their fear of having a perimeter fence. People do not want one, and they've asking, why is there one? Where will it be? What will it look like? Does it need to be there? So I know that that's sort of one of the next items up on, CDM and Ensign are now done and looking to the future. I'm just thinking of all the commentary
story I'm getting from those neighborhoods about, look, this is our, neighborhood, school, people walk here, there, and everywhere, and then the idea of it being encapsulated in the name of safety for some is a little disturbing. So thank you.
Trustee Metoyer.
To that point, in Costa Mesa, most of our schools are joint use, especially our elementary schools. And an excellent example of a successful collaboration with open space is Adams Elementary, because their community used that on the weekends. And it was like, well, we understand. They were really, once we got it up and everything, they went, oh, well, it makes sense that it's closed up during the school day when the children are there. But on the weekends, there is a ginormous gate that just rolls over. It's our responsibility to open it. And we get phone calls when we've forgotten, but we're good at it now. We open it on the weekends, open it after school. And that does allow for the community to have the joint use space. And if the kids are jumping the fence, that's on their own because they don't want to walk to the gate. But there's no reason why we can't incorporate that into our safety plans to collaborate, to have that community space used, because especially in Costa Mesa, we don't have enough park space. Newport Beach planned it a little bit better than we did. Thank you, Newport Beach. But even so, they still have many sites that are used on the weekends too. So it's something that I think we have very smart people in the room. I'm sure they can work on this and we can do something like that. But we have an example. So it's like, hey, we've got an example where it works. Thank you.
Superintendent Lee-Sung.
Okay, so I just want to wrap up this item, and as you know, this is not an action item tonight. I appreciate Tim Holcomb and the entire team for, first of all, giving us kind of a recap of what was done many years ago and to connect that to projects that are actually completed now. So I think we all needed and appreciate that. What I do want to just clarify in terms of next steps is, as you know, that they started just with the first step of the next 5 projects. And then again, for a lot of reasons, those projects were put on pause, okay? But we do want to move forward with these projects if this is the direction of the board. And if that is the case, I would like to ask if you would like staff to bring this back in another agendized item and maybe go into a little more details of the 5 schools that were already identified, and maybe highlight what the features are of that, and get the formal direction from the board before they proceed. What I think we all don't want to have happen is they're spending time and money and resources when this isn't the direction of this board. This was a good opportunity to kind of recap and reset before we move forward to the next set of schools.
Great idea, Superintendent Russell.
I think that's a good plan.
And I think that's a direction that we wanted
Yes.
when we first started this back in 2013.
And, a lot of us are new, we'd like to kind of to see the project before
Right. I
those
think
projects.
all of us would like to continue the project.
Yeah.
I don't remember what the next 5 schools are.
So we
would love
can,
to,
we
but-
can work on putting that on the
Absolutely.
agenda.
Okay, thank you very much.
And thank you
Thank
all,
you.
and excellent team presentation. So
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We will move on to consent calendar.
Can I request more information on item 14A3? We got some information via email, but we're told we would get a little more at today's meeting.
Do you want it before we
14A?
vote? So you don't want to pull it, you just want to?
Discuss.
Oh, you want to put it on discussion action? Or do you want to have a?
Well, I'd just like to know,
Yeah.
super quick, yeah, it's like a 2-minute update from Tim.
Do you need a motion and stuff before we do that, or shall we listen first? President Yelsey.
Well, if it's quick, let's have a motion and a second, but if there's nothing else to be pulled, then we can address that question.
Okay.
Okay.
I move approval of the discussion action calendar with 14B5 being pulled.
Well, wait a minute.
No.
It's already been done.
I meant consent calendar. I really did. I just read wrong.
Thank
It's
Thank you. 14B is pulled.
I don't, do you want to pull?
No,
for discussion?
14B5 is what we already pulled.
Yes.
So if I'm approving the consent calendar, I want
We've
to,
already done
Here to
that.
list all the actions.
oh, so we don't have to do anything. So we already have a
We just
motion,
have a motion to approve the consent calendar.
but we already did.
No, we didn't.
Did we not do that at the
We
beginning?
approved the agenda overall, but not consent.
Yes.
But
And
not
then trustee
consent. We do-
Barto wants to
Okay,
do
so
something
I was
with
moving
A3.
to approve the consent calendar with the
Exception.
exception. As it was amended,
Okay.
which was removing 14B5.
Second.
Thank you.
Who has a second? Okay,
You
and
understood
could we have someone address 14B3?
14A3.
14A3, I'm sorry.
A means Mr. Holcomb.
I'm sorry, I see what it is, A3, but I missed the question.
Just, could we get an update on the timeline and a little more information on this project? We've had 2 items to move this project along, and there have been some changes. So I know a lot of the people in the community have been asking what the timeline is for these specific items. And also, the question that I keep getting is if the scoreboard is going to go back against the wall when it's done. So I hate to give a whole discussion item to this because it's probably not of concern to everyone on the board. But I would like to know what the timeline is and if the scoreboard is going to go back.
The issue, so no, let me start at the end. Yeah, with regard to the scoreboard, no, the scoreboard is not going back. In fact, that was a key part of the whole process because the orientation to be able to watch the 2 types of events in the pool, water polo and swimming and competitive swimming, provides for bleachers in 2 different orientations in a typical pool setting. You see that most recently at the Estancia High School pool design. And so actually where the old scoreboard is a place where there ought to be, right now the deck is rather short, there ought to be bleachers there in order to be able to properly observe the swimming competitions. So we worked with the school site, all of the staff there, and all settled on a future plan for the entire aquatic center to plan to put the scoreboard in the appropriate place for bleachers both on the north side for water polo and on the east side for swim. And then with that, we looked at the bleachers and we looked at the shade structures and realized that with the completion of the Estancia High School project, the other campuses had shade structures and those sorts of things. So we said, you know what, it really makes sense to move forward and to talk about budgeting and to bring to you all what you approved, a budget to provide shade structures for that campus. As we looked at the shade structures for that campus, then that, as these often happen with a code and those sorts of things, that then brought up the issue of the lights are low, although we don't get complaints about the lights there. They're low, and so now the shade structures would be obstructing the light. So we said, well, we really need to put in the same type of lights at Newport Harbor High School as we have at our other aquatic centers. So that added the lights to it. In the DSA review of all of those things, they looked at the bleachers and said your bleachers are not all the way up to code currently. So you need to bring the bleachers up to code. So these are the types of things that start happening with these projects. So all of that, what started out as a relatively small project became a much larger, longer, more complicated project, but a very good one because it brings that campus up to the level of our other campuses. That is completely different, by the way, from the scheduled maintenance of the pool equipment, which actually was hoping to be done in the last few months. So we've had the equipment, we could have done it a number of months ago and talked to the site about it, but they said we would really, we were hoping during COVID when we were going through all of that, that we could get that done. But they said, no, we really want to be in the pool. Can you wait until the summer? Please wait until the summer. So we have had it scheduled all along for July the 22nd for that work to start, and it's still on schedule to do that. We had a little bit of a hiccup where the equipment went wonky on us for a week in June, got it put back together, so we were able to get another good month's use in the pool before we do that. So that's still on schedule. That's scheduled to be completed before students return here in the fall. Am I correct, Mr. Bidnick? Yes. As to the rest of the schedule of the bigger project, I'm sorry, I don't know all of those dates as well, other than to know that it's a significant sized project that requires DSA review. So Ms. Zarestny meets on a monthly basis with Principal Bolton and updates him and the staff on the project. I know they're planning another update very soon, so I'm sure that that information will get to the people there at the school who are most interested, but as they get that together, I can ask Ms. Zarestny to copy me and provide that to all of you as well.
So I appreciate all that information. That's very helpful. I'm just confused because we did shade structures 2019 October for $33,000, and then February 11th, 2020, now it's $433,000, and now it's $1.3 million. We still don't have shade structures. And all the feedback I am getting from the site is not that they want the scoreboard where it is, that it is the exact wrong place for both swimming and water polo. We did a site tour. We got that information loud and clear when we did that, and that it's about 8 feet too short. So I'm not sure where the disconnect is happening, but like the scoreboard doesn't work there. We have to either move it higher, we have to move it back, it has to be revisited. I mean, it's not just booster clubs, it's all the coaches and stuff there are saying this does not work. So I'd hate to go through all this process. Now it's almost $2 million to get a scoreboard that does not work and that does not suit the needs. It's not an upgrade if it's worse than what we had, and that is how the sites feel, that they're not getting anything that they didn't have before other than shade structures, which 2 years later we still don't have. So I'm very frustrated with this whole process.
Shade structures, by the way, that initial amount you mentioned, $33,000, was for design. Shade structures, okay. All shade structures are a very long process. They don't happen very, very quickly as a general rule. So I'm not sure why they ever came to the idea that they thought that shade structures were going to be a very quick and simple process. I know Ms. Zarestny has been meeting with folks for the last number of years, and in fact, I'm very surprised to hear all of that about the scoreboards after I know how many meetings occurred on that project throughout that entire process.
Trustee Wigan and I also were on that visit, and the swim coach as well as the principal both reiterated that those were issues with the scoreboard.
I think in this kind of situation, it's going to be important for the principal and staff there at the site to talk directly to the staff there. And what you're doing is alerting us that there is a disconnect, mm-hmm. and we will address that. Mm-hmm. Okay. We certainly don't want to be spending a lot of money on something that isn't needed. But these, as you can see, there's a very complex series of things that have happened, and sometimes getting the right people in the same place at the right time is what's needed. So,
but what you're saying now with having to go through DSA, it's a much longer term project.
Yes, that's correct.
And I appreciate that we're spending this money and then we're going through DSA. I really do. I don't want it to be that I don't want to spend this money. I just want to spend this money in the right way that gets us the upgrade that school needs.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, and this is why I don't change the curtains at my house, because it evolves. But I think what you're describing, and my first reaction when I heard this is, in the end, they are going to have a facility done the proper way. So sometimes that's hard to hear that it's going to take longer, but ultimately the end product is what it should be. So, okay.
Okay. We have a motion by Trustee Metoyer.
Yep, I just wanted to say thank you.
Excuse me, just for clarification, now that I have the board, it's really helpful if you push your button. Otherwise, I don't know. She just did.
Okay. I just wanted to say thank you for 14B, the math program working with UCI. Thank you. And also, Mr. Geisler, thank you for finally painting Ray. I'm so excited to see the campus fully painted. Thank you.
So on consent is 14A3 still on consent or not?
13.
One we just.
14A3.
14A3. So are you okay with that voting on? Okay. So we have a motion by trustee Metoyer, a second by trustee Orsolu for the consent calendar.
Trustee
Roll call.
Trustee Yelsey?
Yes.
Trustee Barto?
Yes.
Trustee Metoyer?
Yes.
Trustee Anderson?
Yes.
Trustee Crane?
Yes.
Trustee Ursulou?
Yes.
Trustee Wagon?
Yes.
Okay, moving on to discussion action. The first reading and adoption of modifications to board policy.
Well, good evening. It's actually exciting to be here with a revision to the high school graduation requirement policy that I think you've all had an opportunity to read. This comes out of, these recommendations of revisions and additions come out of our discussion or report last week and several weeks prior to that. A lot of work has been put into making some adjustments for Back Bay High School's alternative high school graduation requirements. So we did go through after that report, receiving positive feedback for you to go in that direction of adjusting graduation requirements at Back Bay to 190 and also moving to the quarter system. And those, for the most part, are the major revisions in this policy that we made. The revision committee or the edit committee had some time to look through that. Also provided some more recommendations. Some made it in. There were two that we know we want to discuss in greater detail. One being the, and we can come back at a later date and do that. One being the social science requirements. There needs to be a discussion around that. The other piece that came up was kind of centralizing the site requirements for the experiential learning plan. And that right now, those are site-specific, some of those protocols and requirements. So we'll need some time to work through with principals to do those things and come back to you at a later date with some recommendations there. But for the most part, you've had the policy revisions in front of you, I think at least since Friday. Happy to go through any questions that you might have for those.
Trustee Anderson?
Thank you. I didn't notice this when I was reading it before, but on the very last section where it talks about retroactive diplomas, it seems like that might be a very small kind of niche group of students. Is that like 5 students that would, it seems like just kind of a unique, how many students does that impact?
I don't have a number for you. This is policy that came into play and requirement once the high school exit exam was eliminated. So I can do some research and find out a number for you, but I don't have that off the top of my head.
Okay.
Yeah, now that I've read this, this is language that needs to be in our policy. There was some legislation that occurred that changed the ed code that required all districts to issue diplomas during this period of time when the high school exit exam was in place. So that's what that is, and that's standard language that should be included in our policy.
Yeah, it sounds like if they did not pass it, they still were able to graduate, but at one point they were not. So,
Yeah, correct, correct.
yeah, I would love more just information. So like,
Okay.
are there 40 students that didn't get diplomas? Like, what does that look like?
Let me find out for you.
Trustee Metoyer?
I remember that it was brought up that Trustee Anderson was interested in adding more social studies, but I don't remember that the board had any direction regarding that to happen. So I didn't realize that that would be something our board would be, our people would be exploring. That's what Mr. Drake said. There were 2 items that we would not be visiting right now. One was the social studies requirements, and the other one was,
Experiential learning.
thank you very much.
Right.
It was so 3 seconds ago. And so if the board doesn't have the direction to do that, then it would save staff time that they wouldn't have to be going through to come up with a report for us or how to add it in, when I don't believe that that was the board's direction.
That wasn't what I asked.
What did you ask?
I asked if at some point we could have a discussion about social studies and adding more credits.
Okay, so that we don't,
It
you don't have to
wasn't
do
us
anything
making
now.
a decision.
No.
Okay, good, thank you.
Like I said, it was up for
misunderstood.
discussion.
Thank you.
Just to discuss.
Okay, yeah, and I think it's important that we just clarify this, because we don't want anybody out there listening to our board meeting to believe that we are, at this point, changing any social studies.
No.
It's just, it was an idea.
Exactly.
It was something that, yeah.
No,
okay.
I just wanted to
All
make
right,
sure.
Very, very
When I was a
important.
Newport-Mesa student, I recalled taking more classes, so I
Okay.
wanted to have a conversation.
Very good.
That
Okay,
way.
that's not part of this action tonight.
Thank you. So good.
Any
So you
other
don't have to worry about that
questions
now.
or?
I did just notice some punctuation errors, which I
did
know we
we
all
miss
looked at
that?
that, but there were several that we somehow missed. So there's just a lot of kind of extra semicolons that I hadn't noticed before, but those are not big items, so. we
No,
can-
but if we have it corrected, this is when we do it. Otherwise, they'll stay there forever. So what did you find? Unless we're going to do a second reading, and I don't think we need to.
Well, let's try if she has them now.
Yeah, that's what I said, that's do it now.
Oh my gosh.
Go for it.
Okay. I just, when it's listing the credits, I don't think we need to have a comma and then a period. So like, where it talks about humanities, world languages, we don't need necessarily, I mean, it's not a big deal. It just doesn't.
Oh, I
the
see. After world
punctuation
language,
just
there's a
seems
comma.
for
We
that
don't
whole
need it.
section, like superfluous. I
Yep.
don't know why we have punctuation.
Good, that's, I missed that one before, you did too,
It's
so.
hard to see it online. It's, I don't know. That's it. And then there was on number, underneath the experiential learning project, under program requirements, number 4, it should say, like the 4th line, under certain circumstances.
Yes, good eye.
That was essentially it.
Good, that was
But that was fast.
Thank you.
Okay,
don't wanna waste time doing it.
so do I have a motion as amended with the little changes?
I would like to make a motion, but I also want, and Mrs. Fleur, if you're watching, this is when you would have the expertise. I think it's great and it's wonderful and I'd like to move forward, so I'd like to waive the second reading. So I would like to make a motion to approve the
Well, the motion
revised-
is to approve and adopt the modification.
I would like to move that we approve and adopt the modifications
As a
of
final draft.
board policy as corrected today at Board Policy 6146.1 and waive the second reading.
I'll second.
Who was the second?
Barto.
Barto? Oh. I still can't hear. Moved by trustee Metoyer, seconded by trustee Barto. Any further comment? Okay, roll call vote.
Trustee Yelsey?
Yes.
Trustee Barto?
Yes.
Trustee Metoyer?
Yes.
Trustee Anderson?
Yes.
Trustee Crane?
Yes.
Trustee Ursulou?
Yes.
Trustee Weigand?
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Drake.
Thank you for helping me, because, take note, everyone, because somebody's going to have to always be able to be the one that says, and waive the second reading.
Okay, we'll move on to informal reports, and we have our superintendent report again. Oh, you want to go last? Okay, we will put you last, just as your final wish.
Nothing's too good for you, boy. Yes, you can go last.
Assistant Superintendent Torres, would you like, first of all, welcome to our
Thank you.
first official
Yes,
meeting.
thank
We're
you.
glad
Welcome to the
have you
table.
here. We put a lot on your plate already, so we're pleased that you're here and
I've used the
totally
phrase-
immersed.
Yes, thank you. Finished my first week, and I said I am drinking from a fire hose, or maybe a fire hydrant these days. So thank you. Just immersing myself in the culture and climate of the district office. Had the pleasure to visit Team Winkle early this morning, ran into Trustee Crane. Just getting out to the school sites, collaborating with principals, helping onboard some of our administrators into new positions. So it's just been a good week for me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Mr. Drake?
It's been an even better week for me having Assistant Superintendent Torres on
Their
staff.
workload was cut in half,
Yep,
maybe?
and I just handed it right over. She jumped right in. No, but seriously, it has been, I know her first week, but has jumped in and really is going to be an incredible addition to the team, and I'm really excited to have her here, both as a colleague, but also kind of as an advisor. Lots of experience that I'm able to also gain from. So well done, I will say to you, and thank you. And then also to kind of play a little bit on Trustee Anderson's comment about bringing on the research practice partnership with UCI and even expanding that to support our instructional leadership is a move in the right direction. Really to transform our classrooms and create responsive, really humane classrooms, and I'm excited to move in that direction. So thank you.
Mr. Trader?
Good evening.
Heard from you tonight.
Yeah, it's good to be here. Just a quick review of the budget at the state level. This is interesting. They passed a budget, but there was nothing really in it, and they're still working on it. And so we're still not quite sure what the allocation rates are or anything like that. But
Special.
it looks like it's going to, for us, it looks like it's going to be kind of a you can have your cake but not eat it kind of thing. So when you look at it, the state is really, on the plus side, the state is in the great fiscal shape. And on the minus side, the state is in really great fiscal shape. Because what that means is, and this won't impact this, but I want to make sure you're aware of it so you have context in case you hear about this. So in 22-23, because the state is in such great fiscal shape, that means that the school district reserve caps are going to be implemented for the very first time. And that means that districts are then limited on the reserves that they can have. However, community-funded districts like us are exempt from that. Thank heaven. That's a good thing. And then on the plus side, we have lots of one-time money. On the negative side, we have lots of one-time money. It adds a whole lot of complexity to what we're doing, and we're being very careful about that. On the plus side also, the state is going to pay off all of the cash deferrals, which is great news for us. Super helpful, wonderful news. On the negative side, or on the minus side, funding for universal TK does not appear to be coming to us.
Yeah.
However, don't lose hope. As you use your influence, hopefully we can work something out there to where we can do that. And then on the plus side, special ed, Dr. Jochim's going to be saving a lot more money because she's going to get a lot more money on top of that. So the base is going from $625 per ADA to $715 per ADA. Plus, there's going to be another early intervention preschool grant, which is wonderful news. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sounded more good news. I'm okay with that.
Mr. Trader?
Mr. Holt, yes.
Oh, because we I believe Trustee Bartow and I heard the CSBA budget webinar today. And is it true? So the deferrals was, there were $12.5 billion, and all will return to the schools, or whatever the term is, except for $2.6 billion. Does that sound right?
That was the original proposal, and the governor decided to pay off all of them. So that $2.6 billion is going to come back to us. That's good.
Wow, excellent. Great.
Mr. Holcomb.
I would like to thank Trustee Anderson for the comment about the painting. Mr. Geisler has been very busy since he's gotten here, but particularly working with Mr. Bidnick. When Mr. Bidnick was interviewing for the position, one of the things that we looked at very extensively was his experience in putting together maintenance programs to keep up with the timely maintenance of facilities. And in fact, we have a significant amount of deferred maintenance in the district that he's already made a significant impact on. Last year in the summer, this year as well, we have a significant amount of carpeting going on, painting, as you noted, and what was the other one that was in my head just a second ago? carpeting, painting. No, not so much. I'll remember it in a minute. At any rate, he's been very, very busy. Oh, I know what it was, the roofing. And the reason why significantly roofing is they're out there working diligently with roofing, but we are finding a significantly greater amount of deteriorated wood than even we knew it was going to be significant. So it's good. We're getting after it. The projects are going ahead well, but we're very glad to be aggressively tackling our maintenance program this summer.
Thank you. Mrs. Olson.
Thank you. Good evening. It's very interesting being on the other side of the room. Just thought I'd share that. I don't know if it threw you guys off, but it's been a little awkward. I just want to take a moment tonight because yesterday was a big day. We launched our vaccine verification process. And had we not done that and had not had the team to do so, all of us would still have masks on. And so I do want to share with the public that while we heard a lot tonight about CDC and CDPH and the school guidance, Cal OSHA, it guides the guidelines for our employees to keep our employees safe. And so with the changes that they did for on their guidance in regards to COVID for non-school sites, our employees, if they go through a vaccine verification process and their vaccine documentation is verified by HR, then they are able to work on site without a mask if they choose. And again, I emphasize it's a voluntary process. No one is required to, but you do have to do it if you would like to have the opportunity not to wear a mask while you're at a non-school site. And then, of course, the outdoor guidelines is consistent, that outdoors everyone can remove their mask if they choose. So it's all about choice. But the process that was developed is secure. All of you have gone through it, and it's quick, it's easy, and now it lies with our HR department who will go through and do a verification, send information to the employee as well as their supervisor, and hopefully we'll get through the numbers that are coming in because it's a little bit of a tidal wave and then it'll be done. So we just ask for a little grace and time. So in that, to develop that process, I really think we need to acknowledge the efforts of Megan Brown, our admin director in HR, Jonathan Wilby, our director of risk management, and Asim Babovich, who is our director of technology. It truly was an interdepartment project to get it done and all the people that work with them. And I do want to thank our HR department because they will be carving out a moment in time, actually an hour or two a day, so that they can get through all of the verification and get back to the employees as quickly as we can. So I just wanted to thank them.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Well, I
Dr.
usually
Jekyll.
like to have the last word, and now
And you're not
and
gonna
now
get
the
it tonight.
superintendent's going to get it.
That's
So that's not quite fair. But it's kind of nice having new people over here to sit next to. But in student support services, things are moving along. We have lots of new initiatives coming forward this year, and just when I think we're fully staffed, and I get my new director of due process and SELPA, and we finally got staffed for our special ed coordinators, and Candy's in the back, cheering for that. And kind of making plans to move forward, then we find out that Dr. DiAgostino is leaving the district. So, trying to work with HR in terms of, I won't say replacing him, but we'll say filling the position and kind of taking on some of those responsibilities until that time. So it will be interesting, but there's a good team of coordinators in student services who all do their jobs really well and know their job really well. So it's kind of exciting to, get a little deeper in working with them and figure some of those things out. So, and then on behalf of those of us who sit on this side of the dais, we would like to congratulate our superintendent on his retirement. It was kind of nice to, to actually have a real meeting, kind of one and done. You can go out on top with, with that.
You did it.
We'll save the rest of our goodbyes for later, but congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay, so this being our last regular board meeting with me here as superintendent, I do want to give just a short farewell message. And I'm not going to go too deep, because if I go too deep, you all know me, I'm going to get very emotional, okay? So I'm going to try to keep it short. But first of all, I want to thank our board, each of you, for your support. This absolutely was a memorable year, would you say? It's a memorable year, and we made it. We made it through. Some thick and thin times, some successes, each step that we accomplished, we did it together. We really did it together. I'm very proud of that. And I'm proud of the fact that, I had the opportunity to work here in this district, had the opportunity to, serve in several different roles, but a real honor to be here in this seat, in this role. And, some people would say, oh my gosh, your timing is the worst. You're the unluckiest guy in the world. They'll make comments like that. But you know what? I look back on it and I think I am very lucky. I'm lucky that I was here at the time that our district needed us. We needed leaders. We needed people. And I'm glad I was here for that. Okay? So, I don't look back on this with any regret at all. Okay? And I thank you all for your support in having me here in this role and supporting me. And one way or another, we got through it. We got through it very successfully. So I'm very, very pleased with that. I want to take a moment to thank the leadership team. The leadership team. And first, my own colleagues on cabinet, executive cabinet, extended cabinet, executive plus. We had a lot of new groups that we created in this crisis. But extending beyond that to our directors like Candy back there, and all of our directors and coordinators and principals and assistant principals and supervisors, et cetera. You have an amazing group of leaders, okay, very dedicated. And again, I look back on my time as superintendent and all the meetings that we had, and those Zoom meetings, and we were meeting every week, even throughout the summer, to stay connected. And they were all there. And even though we were on Zoom, I felt that connection. I made them do the Zoom wave, and we did things to stay connected. But we have an amazing group of leaders, and I'm absolutely going to miss working with them and problem solving and climbing that next Mount Everest, right, Sarah? We finished climbing one Mount Everest, and then there's the next one, and there's the next one, and there's going to be a few more. But you know what? You've been through it, and it's going to be successful. And then extending our leadership, I want to thank our union leaders. Pam, we've been through a lot together, right? We have. And yet, again, you know what? This is what makes our district special. We have great leaders. Eleanor, thank you for always being here. You're part of the leadership with CSEA. And if NMFT was here, and I will make sure I reach out to them, same thing. And think of all the agreements that we've made through this crisis, okay? And that is a testament to our district, okay? Doesn't mean we always disagree. It isn't always smooth and easy, but we get there, and we've accomplished this. And so, again, I want to say how much I appreciate leadership, but as well as our union leadership. And then leaders from our parents. We had some wonderful advisory groups. Our Harbor Council PTA parents. I met with our DLAC folks. We have amazing parent leaders too, and I'm very thankful for them. And then I'm not going to forget our student leaders. Didn't we have some amazing student board members this year? And then for us to be able to bring them in person for their last session, was fabulous. And I know you're going to have a new group next year, and they're going to continue that leadership role. And of course, to all of our staff, everybody does their part to keep this district going. And they do it all the time, year in and year out, but even more so this past year. And again, I was just so appreciative to be in this role and to be part of that. And so the last thing I want to say is that I learned many years ago that we are all just stewards. We are stewards of something very special in this district. And we come, we do our part, we carry on the mission, and we pass it on.
You almost made it.
Almost made it. And that mission never stops. So anyways, so in about what, a little bit less than 3 weeks, I'm going to pass that baton on. And I'm going to look back on this time very, very fondly. So, and then I pass it on knowing all of you are going to carry it on. And I feel good. So thank you. Almost got through it. Almost.
And we too are all appreciative of everything you've done over the past year. It's been a wild ride. We say a year. It feels like maybe 5 years. And it's been, you were put in a tough situation and you handled it remarkably. And, you know, I always say just the fact that we are already back to normal. We talk about being back to normal in the fall. Well, yeah, it's a little more robust, but we got everybody back. And that was our goal over the year. And it was because of you. I can remember, but 2 times I have seen huge smiles on Mr. Lee-Sung's face. The first was when he made that switch and said, we're going to come back in person.
Yep.
I feel good about it. We're going to do this. I remember having a conversation with you, and he had just this feeling of relief, and this is what we've been working for. And the second was when he said he was retired.
I know.
And both times with a big smile. So, you know, we all wish you the absolute best in everything you do. And we cannot wait to be at some of the events that you're doing. We'll come to your piano bar, we'll come listen to you, we'll do whatever. So keep in touch with all of us. Board member reports. We'll go down the aisle if anybody has anything. Does anybody have anything that they?
No, I, just want to say thank you to all the parents that are so active and are always reaching out with their ideas about how to improve things. Keep up the good work. Keep reaching out to us and telling us your ideas. Even if we disagree, we'll listen to them and use all the new information to make decisions. And yeah, I spend all my time pretty much shuffling my kid around, so I'm doing nothing else this summer. So that's all I got.
Okay. And there's no committee reports, I don't believe.
We're kind of
No, but I wanted to make a comment that there's a couple of events, because there's no way I'm going to remember it all the way till August 17th. But Trustee Ursulou and I are going to go to the State of the City event on Thursday. And then on Saturday, I know that several of us are going to the opening of the Norma Herzog Community Center. It's not the library anymore. And that's why we're all going, because we want to see how they're fitting square rooms in a round building. Okay. And for those of us that have lived in Costa Mesa your whole lives, it's like they flip-flop the library and the community center, and they both should be spectacular, so we're excited about seeing that. So we're going to do that, and I don't want to have to bring it up in August that we did it. So.
There's also a State of the City in Newport Beach, and
It's the
21st.
Okay.
That
somebody's going to
several
too.
of us are going to.
Excellent. So we're covering those cities, and we're handling that community center. And I look at it as that, and the fact that OCC should be opening up enough that maybe we have another meeting room that we can access, because they have a phenomenal meeting room in their new their ASB building. So we should have meeting rooms available. I don't know about parking, but we can get the people in the room. So that's
we
exciting.
don't have a meeting until August 17th officially, an official board meeting.
That's our next
We may
regular
have to
meeting.
have something in between, but we will let everyone know. Just a special meeting. And, but we will be getting information, as Dennis and Peggy told us, on the superintendent search. So we'll be still involved with that. Whether you're in town or out of town, we will all know where you are.
It's like we have a find a phone thing on all of us.
Any other comments? Trustee Crane.
Yes. First, I want to thank Superintendent Lee Sung and the staff who made tonight possible in person with great protocol in place. Thank you so much for making it happen. Secondly, I had the pleasure today of being escorted by Candy Barella to go visit the special ed summer school programs that were around several campuses, including Tewinkle, Kaiser, Harper, and Woodland. And wow, what an amazing testament to all the work that goes into our district's special needs program. The teachers were engaged, the kids were happy and smiling, learning was happening, it was vibrant, it was special, and we're very lucky to be able to offer this to our children and families. And then lastly, Superintendent Lee Sung, you will forever be in my mind the guy who led us through COVID. Plain and simple, that should say it all. Thank you so much, class act.
Yes.
Okay, if there are no other comments, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn the meeting?
Oh, second. Yes, second.
Motion by trustee Crane, seconded by trustee Metoyer. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, have a great week. And Superintendent Lee Sung, you still have 2.5 weeks of hard work.
I mentioned it, but after Carol said, I just wanted